From playing the chosen savior of the human race in The Matrix to his unlikely comeback as an action superstar in John Wick, Keanu Reeves has had no shortage of iconic roles throughout his career. But there's one question we'd all like to ask the man who seems to have everything: does Keanu have any regrets? It's hard to think that he would, cause the guy just doesn't miss. He started out playing a lovable stoner in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and he'd already had a pretty solid career before The Matrix made him an international superstar. But the thing is, acting can be a tricky career. You don't always know what the right choices are. It can be easy to think that Keanu's super proud of his flawless career, but if you want an example of how easy it is to make the wrong decision, just take a look at the guy that might have taken the role of Neo away from him. Keanu wasn't the Wachowskis' first choice to play the lead role in The Matrix. I know what you're thinking. How could anyone else have played the role as well as he did? I mean, the guy didn't just appear as Neo on the big screen. He lived and breathed the character through and through. The level of commitment he showed was truly incredible. Keanu actually had to take ice baths after filming because he wanted to do as many of his own stunts as possible. But the thing is, the Wachowskis had a completely different actor in mind at first. They approached Will Smith for the role, only for him to turn it down. Smith ended up choosing Wild Wild West over The Matrix, and I think we all know how that turned out. In a way, Keanu got kind of lucky. I'm not saying he didn't deserve the part, but we'd have never gotten to see him change the action genre forever if Will Smith had a bit of common sense. Keanu recently decided to go on Reddit for an AMA, and that's when a fan popped him a rather awkward question. Now, the first thing you need to know about Keanu is that he loves interacting with his fans. So a random Reddit AMA is just the kind of thing he'd be up for. And he wasn't afraid to answer as many questions as possible either, which is yet another testament to how much he cares. One user asked him if he's ever regretted turning down a role. That's not the sort of question that most actors would be willing to respond to. It's actually pretty personal. So it would have been understandable if Keanu just ignored it, or gave a vague response just to get it out of the way. But Reeves was pretty open about one thing. Firstly, he said that he doesn't exactly have regrets. He's never turned down a role that he really wanted, which is kinda odd if you think about it. I'll admit, the guy's played his fair share of sensational characters, but he's still been forced to choose between gigs, and that doesn't always end up well.
Predictable as ever. Smith.
Smith? As in V. Smith?
He almost got the chance to work with Oliver Stone, you know, one of the greatest directors of all time. Perhaps his most famous film is Platoon, which depicted the brutality of war in a truly uncompromising way. And Keanu could have been part of that. He was Oliver's first choice to play Chris Tyler, aka the guy that ended up getting portrayed by Charlie Sheen. So why on earth would Keanu pass up the chance of a lifetime? Well, in his defense, it was still pretty early on in his career, so Reeves felt like he didn't have the kind of experience that let him do the role justice. What's more, he was kinda uncomfortable with the level of violence in the film. I know what you're thinking. The guy that played John Wick didn't want to appear in a violent movie? Well, you've gotta understand. John Wick, The Matrix, and all the other movies Reeves has been in show stylized violence. It's pure entertainment, rather than depicting the bloodshed of a very real conflict. Keanu's all about entertaining people, so it's fair to say that he has no regrets on that front. But with that said, there is one role that he wishes he could have gotten, and you're never gonna believe what it was.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Keanu's dream role is none other than Wolverine. Can you imagine how awesome it would have been if he got that part? Of course, Hugh Jackman's been absolutely perfect as Wolverine. He's made the character his own for a whole 23 years, so it might be kinda hard to imagine anyone else in the role. But Keanu's a different case. He has some serious acting range, and he's known for his subtle emotional cues that could have brought a whole new depth to the character. And of course, Keanu knows how to pull off incredible action scenes. I can almost almost picture him in the role, and I'm getting dizzy just thinking about it. Unfortunately, Keanu never got the chance to play the superhero on the big screen. In fact, he wasn't even offered the part. Jackman was destined to play the gruff mutant, and it's not like Keanu didn't get to enjoy a top-notch career. This isn't technically a regret, it's more like wishful thinking. Keanu's not alone in feeling that way either. When he made this revelation during his AMA, everyone started to lose their minds, and who could blame them? Now, some of you are probably wondering, is there any chance Keanu could play Wolverine in a future film?
We're about to crash.
Maybe an alternate version of the character? There's a pretty specific reason why that could work. Wolverine doesn't age, and neither does Keanu. I guess he's gotten a bit of salt and pepper in his beard, but that's about it. Keanu looks almost identical to how he looked a couple decades ago. I know, that's not quite enough to make him ideal for the role, although it's a huge plus point, and it'd make for some funny memes if nothing else. Ageless Keanu playing an ageless superhero, it's almost poetic if you think about it. But I actually have some kind of mixed news on that front. Hugh Jackman's gonna return as Logan in Deadpool 3, although maybe Keanu could still come in as a Wolverine from a different universe. That fit the whole multiverse vibe they've got going on. He'd probably take a completely different approach to the role too, because he has a tendency to be super calm. That might not sound like classic Wolverine, but it'd be a refreshing change from the super aggressive portrayal Hugh's gone for. What's more, it'd give Keanu the chance to play a role he's wanted for 2 whole decades. That said, I'm personally super glad that we're gonna get to see Hugh Jackman as Wolverine at least one more time. And as for Keanu, he's gonna make a comeback of his own that might make up for all of this.
I was afraid of this. Afraid of what might happen. Afraid of hurting the only person I ever loved.
Reeves is returning as the anti-hero Constantine. It's not exactly the most popular DC film ever made. In fact, some would argue that it's not a DC film to begin with, but it's a personal favorite of mine, not to mention a cult classic that millions of fans adore. James Gunn's recent shakeup of the DCU broke the door wide open for Keanu's return. It might not be the same as Reeves playing Wolverine, but I'll take what I can get. Constantine's a super underrated hero from the DC canon, and now he's gonna be a part of Gunn's rebooted DCU. Who knows? Now that Keanu's revealed just how much he's always wanted to play Wolverine, he could get a cameo in an upcoming MCU film, maybe even joining Hugh Jackman, so we can see both Wolverines on screen at the same time. That's all just pure speculation though, or is it more just wishful thinking? Either way, a guy can dream, right? That's all for me on Keanu's secret dream role that we never got to see.
Predictable as ever. Smith.
Smith? As in V. Smith?
Yeah, that's not how I was afraid of this. Afraid of what might happen.
How many buttons?
2.
Trousers?
Tapered.
How about the lining?